Hi guys, thank you for joining us for coffee and chat with the street team. We all have our little cups of coffee here. Super excited to be answering your guys' questions as well as talking about our Stern experiences. But with that, let's get into some chat and some introductions. So my name is Fatima. I go by the pronoun she, her. I'm studying marketing and data science with a minor in web programming and applications, and my hometown is Dubai, UAE. At NYU Stern, I've been able to be involved in clubs like 180 Degrees Consulting and NYU Elective.
Hello, everyone. Good morning or good day, wherever you are. My name is Anagha. I also use she, her pronouns. I'm concentrating in finance and data science at NYU Stern and minoring in media culture and communications at NYU Steinhardt. I'm from Montgomery, New Jersey. Shout out to New Jersey. And my involvement at NYU involves NYU Elective as well. But also I'm a part of Empowered Consulting, and I am an orientation leader and CLP guide as well.
All right. Hey guys, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night. Hopefully it's not the middle of the night for you guys, but if it is, thanks all the more so for tuning in. I'm Danielle. I use she, her pronouns. And before I introduce myself, I just want to say thank you to Eric, who you see is on the screen here, who unfortunately can't join us today live because he has side effects from his second dose, which he just got, but he's a tremendous part of the street team, and we really appreciate everything that he does. But to continue with a little bit about me, I'm concentrating in accounting and data science, and I'm minoring in music in NYU College of Arts and Science. And I'm also from Jersey, a little bit of a different part, but northern New Jersey, which is super close to Manhattan. And in addition to being involved in the street team, I'm also part of the Tamid group. So with that, we'll just get into a little bit about why we chose Stern and what we love about it. So for me, I live very close to the city, and I've always had the city right on my doorstep. And I knew that I wanted to stay in the area for college because of all the amazing things that the city has to offer. And whether it be, professional development, cultural experiences, and just, like you see at the top, this cherry blossom tree when it gets nice in the spring, which is right about now. And I also love that I'm able to take classes for business concentrations, but also I can take advantage of NYU at large. For example, my minor with music. I'm not at all limited to Stern, which is great. And I can really develop my interests in other areas as well.
Yeah, so looking at my reasons for coming to Stern, I think that Stern really took advantage of pretty much everything that I wanted to do during my college experience. I knew I wanted to study abroad. I knew I wanted to live in a really big and bustling city and be a part of a lot of arts and culture. But on this slide, as you can see, a really big part of my why Stern is really the community and the people I've met here. NYU has a really great ability to attract a lot of really like-minded, passionate, interesting people, and I have been blessed enough to have met amazing friends and teammates and classmates throughout my time here, and I've had a lot of really unique experiences just from being in New York and being part of the NYU community.
So for my why Stern, I was super attracted to New York because, of course, it's such a vibrant city. And I was especially attracted to the amount of opportunity that NYU and New York had to offer. And often when I think about my why Stern story, I think about why I'm so happy that I ended up here as opposed to what got me here. I'm so happy for the people that I was able to meet through my clubs, the things that I was able to see, like the beautiful skyline that is pictured here, the food I was able to eat, because New York has some of the best food in the world, in my opinion. And that's some boba soft serve ice cream, which was actually incredibly good. I've also been able to see such amazing art and music, which is something that I love and I feel like New York has so much of, as well as travel, because as an international student, I hadn't really had the opportunity to see America to its fullest. And I feel like the opportunity to study here was just that I got to travel to the Grand Canyon, which you can also see here. And I'm just so happy that I ended up here because of how many opportunities I had and how many things I was able to see that I might not have seen had I just stayed at home. And with that, we can get into our first prompt question. And I'd also like to plug the comment section. So feel free to drop any questions that you may have, and we can definitely answer them along the way.
Yeah, so we actually, now that we've all shared a bit about ourselves, we'd love to hear from all of you tuning in. Where are you tuning in from? Where are you right now? We just want to see like where in the world everyone is from, because NYU is so incredibly diverse, and we know that people are really from everywhere, and that's like one of the amazing things about this school. So plug it in the chat, and we'll be like checking out where all of you are. But while we're waiting for some comments, where are both of you tuning in from?
I am currently in New York, and it's honestly a really good time to be in New York because, as Danielle said, the cherry blossom trees are blossoming, and I was able to see that in Central Park. So that was really nice.
Yeah, I am in my hometown. The house I grew up in, I'm in New Jersey, so not too far away. And I'm excited to see where everyone else is, and see who's kind of up in the middle of the night to come chat with us. But anyone who's, even if it's the morning for you, then that's great too. You can join us in coffee, but if it's the middle of the night, I guess you might need a little bit more.
I think I might have cut out there for a second, but I am tuning from New York City.
Oh, we have a lot of diversity actually tuning in. We have some people from India. I see Jersey, ATL. That's exciting. Anagha, but what about you? Where are you right now?
Yeah, oh my gosh, I'm seeing the Jersey shout outs. Love Jersey. But I am currently in New York City as well. The weather's been beautiful, and everyone's just been out and about, and energy's been amazing. So super, super happy to be here. Israel, wow, this is so cool just to see where everyone's coming from. India, this is amazing. Keep it coming. We love to see it. And yeah, this is just like a testament to how diverse your class is going to be and how diverse NYU is. That's awesome.
And so with that, I guess we can get into our first topic of discussion, which is academics and professional life at Stern. So let's start us off with just talking about what some of your guys' favorite classes have been and professors.
Yeah. Oh, wow. So as you guys can probably tell, I'm a junior, and I've had my fair share of Stern classes already, which is super exciting. And I've gotten to take classes in all sorts of disciplines. So just a little bit of a refresher, you will take classes in, finance and data science, in accounting, in economics, and so many other disciplines as well. And by the time you're even a sophomore, you'll have taken all of those. And I guess sitting here as a junior, it's super exciting to see how all of those classes have led me to my current interests, which really are data science and like business analytics. And right now, I would say one of my favorite classes is it's a mouthful, so get ready. But it's called Data-Driven Decision Making. We just abbreviate it to D3M because no one has the time to say that all the time. But it's really exciting because it really feels like a hands-on application of data science and just taking data sets and really understanding how to use them, how to look at them, how to treat them. And our professor always chooses really interesting contexts. So we do things about movies and healthcare and a whole bunch of different industries. And it's definitely challenging at times because it is Monday nights, and everyone's kind of tired, but she really does a great job of keeping us interested, and she's always so animated and excited. So I really appreciate that about her and the class.
Yeah, like Danielle, I feel like since I've taken so many classes and had like amazing experiences in so many of them, it's like really hard to narrow down. But I wanted to give like 2 shout outs to classes that have really stood out in my time at Stern. So one of my favorite classes was actually my freshman year, first semester. I took a class it was called Marketing for Impact, Strategies for Sustainable Business, which is also quite a mouthful. But essentially, it's a marketing class that focuses on this idea of sustainability. And you'll see that sustainability and social impact is a really big part of your curriculum at Stern, and it's really something that Stern prides itself on. And so I knew I wanted to get involved and learn more about that space early on. And so that's why I took this class. And essentially, the bulk of the class is focused on a group project where you start building a marketing campaign. And every semester, the teachers kind of make an agreement with someone, like a real world kind of connection. And you are building a marketing campaign for this company or for this initiative. And our semester, we were lucky enough for that partner to be Google. So we were building a marketing campaign for Google, which is something I never thought I was going to be doing my freshman year of college. And then because we were in New York, we actually got to go to the Google office in Chelsea for our final presentation and like present to Google representatives. And it was just such a like real life application of things we were learning. And we got to get like real feedback from people who were clearly leaders in the industry. And I just thought it was so cool that Stern afforded me the opportunity to do that. And that's something that like I really think is unique to NYU and to Stern, because we are in New York and we have the opportunity to be around such amazing companies and such amazing people who are like the leaders of their field. So that was definitely a highlight for me. Another one is a class called Management Organizations, which is one of the classes of the Functional Business Core, which a lot of people take throughout sophomore and junior year. And it's basically a class all about management and people. And so it's really psychologically driven, which is something that was really interesting to me. And I had Professor Michael North, who is really well known at Stern. He's really great and just like tries really hard to get to know every single one of his students and make a connection with each person, which was something that I really appreciated, especially because I was taking his class during when the coronavirus pandemic was kind of hitting and we were transitioning to Zoom. So I really appreciated how much he was checking in with all of us and like making the class a really comfortable space for us to communicate and share. And I just thought it was really interesting and really fueled my interest in like management and people and like that side of the business. But yeah, Fatima, have you had any notable class experience that you want to share?
Yeah, first off, the fact that you went to Google is insane. I remember seeing that freshman year and I was like, I got to take this class at some point and hopefully it'll happen soon. But I'm going to follow along a similar trend as Anagha and give a shout out to two classes, one of which was my freshman fall and it was called Commerce and Culture. And I had taken it with Professor Lyon. And it's essentially your writing requirement that you can fulfill inside or outside of Stern. And I chose to do it inside. And it's really interesting because you get to analyze a lot of different types of texts, as well as cultural artifacts like Beyonce's Lemonade album and the This Is America video. And actually, Danielle, you were in my class too, weren't you? Oh, that was an amazing class. And I just love Professor Lyon. He was so kind and so intelligent and was just so open to conversation. It was also the class that I was able to meet a lot of people because it was my freshman fall. I actually met my roommate there who I live with now. So that's nice. And so that was one of my first favorite classes. I think my second one was also my sophomore spring, similar to Anagha. It was a class that had shifted remotely halfway through the semester, and it was called Social Entrepreneurship with Professor Pollock. And he too was so understanding of the environment, and the class was an incredibly safe place. But essentially, the class was creating a minimum viable product for a social entrepreneurship related product or service. And so you're put into teams and you're working towards using business to do good. So we were looking at the gender equity space, and it was a super interesting class because we also got to hear from speakers like from a variety of different fields, from the political field to social entrepreneurship. For example, we heard from speakers in sustainable fashion, which was especially interesting for me because that is an area that I am interested in. So all around, it just exposed me to a lot of different types of perspectives, as well as I got to meet a lot of people via my team. And those were my two favorite classes. But I see we have some really good questions in the chat too. So we have one from Christina about what is the process for signing up for classes, and is it actually hard to get the classes that you want to take? So for the first part of that question, registration actually takes place for first year starting June 16th, and the Academic Advising Office are going to share everything that you need to know in advance. And I believe we're going to be dropping a link into our first years for fall classes in the chat as well. So keep an eye on that. But what was your guys' experience with taking the classes and class registration in general?
I would say that there are certain classes that freshmen need to take, which works to your advantage because it kind of eliminates all other years in Stern that you're quote unquote competing with to get the spots in the class. And Stern knows that all freshmen need to take those classes, so they make sure that there are enough spots and sections for everyone to take them, either in the fall or in the spring. So you definitely will get the classes that you need to take. So do not worry about that at all. And I would just add that from an elective perspective, which I think is sometimes where people get a little concerned that they're not going to get to explore the interests that they have, it's actually a good thing that you have that core in place, because those really help inform which classes you want to take going forward. And then by the time that you have enough credits to select electives, which you still can have in freshman year, but just the more classes you take, obviously the more credits you accumulate and the better, or I guess the more choice you have earlier on to take electives. It works to your advantage because it really makes sure that you're getting the classes that interest you and that speak to what direction you want to go in. So I'd say it's been very well designed, and I've had a great experience with that.
Yeah, just want to like piggyback off that. I also had a pretty smooth experience scheduling my freshman year classes, just because there are classes that all freshmen have to take, and because of that, you will get those classes because they are designed for the freshmen to take them. Just wanted to also add that usually during registration, the academic advising office is really, really open and accommodating to any calls, and like they have drop-in sessions as well. And whatever that looks like virtually, they will be available for you. So if you have any questions or any concerns, NYU Stern's academic advising office will be reaching out to you just ahead of registration, but they also will be giving you information on how to contact them. And like, I would highly recommend that you do that, because it is easy, especially like, at least for me, I'll speak for myself. I was so excited to be taking college classes and like getting into all these things, and I kind of overwhelm myself with all the options that there are, because NYU is such a huge school and there's so many classes you can take. But sometimes it's really helpful to have someone to like talk through your options and like your degree planning sheet and all that. And that's when advising really helps. So I would really encourage all of you to go to them for that advice and guidance during that time.
Yeah, I think you guys covered all the major parts of that question, but I guess we have another one here about double majoring in business studies and drama while at NYU. And I think that's a great point. There's a lot of flexibility with how you can shape your degree. There are a lot of double majors within Stern to a variety of other schools. So that's definitely something that is feasible and that I would say would be a great experience too, because you get to experience not one, but two schools at NYU. And just for, Anagha, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to quickly add, just for like your all information, there are some limits in terms of double majoring. I believe one of the double majors has to be within the College of Arts and Sciences at NYU. So in terms of like having a full double major, that might limit some things for you. But in terms of minoring, you can minor across any school at NYU. So that is really like super open, and that's something that like a lot of NYU students take advantage of. But just like so you're aware, the College of Arts and Sciences is huge and has a lot of different majors, so it's a really popular option that a lot of students do take advantage of.
Yeah. Also, I don't know entirely how you intend drama, but there actually is a dual degree that Stern offers with Tisch, and that's the BS BFA. So that would be more specifically for film and TV, but a lot of students love that. I actually was considering doing that at one point when I think before I even got to Stern, but that is designed to have that double major going on. But there's also a way, as Anagha said, to do like dramatic studies or something of that sort in the College of Arts and Science, I believe. So if you're interested in that dual degree, then definitely check that out. There's so much material on that on our website, and I'm sure advisors would be happy to walk you through that, because it is a pretty intricate process, but it's a really cool program. We have actually a street team member, Anna, who's part of that, and she loves it.
Yeah, that's true. If you have any more questions about that, you can also email the straight team email, which you'll see at the end of this presentation. And you can definitely get more perspective on that if that's something you're interested in. And I guess we can answer perhaps one more question before we go into the next panel question, which is, how is the digital marketing major in NYU? And do you guys have any idea on what they do? And so this is a good question. Actually, I'm a marketing concentration. And so the digital marketing is a track as well. And so tracks are basically these curriculums at NYU that you can offer, and they're guidance of the classes that you can take if you're interested in a specific field. And digital marketing is one of them, and you can work closely with a professor that is assigned to that track. There are other offerings like management consulting or asset pricing. So if that's something you're interested in, definitely check that out on the website. There are also a lot of digital marketing related classes, and I am actually taking one this semester, and it is called Digital Marketing with Professor Manglani. And it's super comprehensive. It preps you to take the Google Analytics exam as well as the Google AdWords exam. So it gives you a lot of tangible skills. So it's a great way to build some hard skills if you're interested in the area of marketing. But yeah, if you guys have anything to add on, otherwise we can go into the next section of the next question of the section.
I just have a super quick clarification to make. I know I was really confused about this early on. Just to make a distinction between tracks and concentrations. Concentrations are within the BS in Business program at Stern, and there's 13 concentrations that we offer, which include marketing, data science, finance, accounting, list can go on. And those are the areas of study that is like listed on your diploma, like that is what your like major is, or like you're concentrating in. The track is more of like a guideline to go into a certain field. And so it's kind of an unofficial thing, but it's something that helps like guide you in areas that you're interested in. And it like recommends classes that you can take to become more knowledgeable about that field. Because as you can see, like digital marketing kind of combines some aspects of data science and some aspects of marketing, which are two of Fatima's concentrations. And she managed to combine them into that track. But yeah, super cool.
Yeah, thanks, Anagha. It definitely is. It can get a bit confusing, but all the information is available on the site as well. So feel free to reach out if you have any more questions about that too. But for the next question, related to academics and professional, could you guys talk a little bit about how you feel Stern prepared you for the real world or the generally professional side of life?
Sure. I would say that from the second you get there from freshman year, there are ways. That being said, this kind of goes back to the whole exploring and exposing yourself to multiple disciplines and those concentrations that Stern has to offer. Or if you're in BPE, just really solidifying your academics in that, or BTE, which is super exciting. I'm jealous of you guys that get to do BTE because I wish I were able to do that. But whatever it is, I think that there's so many opportunities for me. Freshman year, I always went to the professional development series, and then where Stern brought in professionals from like big firms, like big banks and big accounting firms. And I'm trying to think what else. I went to like one with Bank of America, PwC. There's, fun stuff like that. And they set it up such that each firm was talking about a different topic related to professional development. So, networking, interviews, resumes, anything you might need to know. So it's really just, it's not too overwhelming. It's one digestible topic at a time. And that really helped me because it was kind of like technical skills and just how to get those things in place. But then it was also an opportunity to develop those soft skills by meeting professionals and developing relationships with them. And that went a really long way when it came time for me to recruit formally in sophomore year, which is not the case for everyone. That was just the case for my program. But for most people, that's only in junior year. But don't worry about that yet. But there's plenty of support and outlets for that when the time does come.
Yeah, I definitely was in the same boat. I came in to Stern really not knowing much about the business world and not knowing much about what I want to do professionally. And so I would really, really say that freshman year, I spent exploring and figuring out what was interesting to me. So definitely took advantage of the professional series that Danielle is talking about. Something else that's really great that will be built into all of your curriculums is there's a freshman year course called CLP, or Cohort Leadership Program. And that is a class that all freshmen have to take. And a big part of that class is the series called Stern Talks, where a bunch of Stern alumni come back and speak about their experiences in different fields. So there's representatives who work in finance, who work in accounting, who work at tech companies, who work in the fashion and beauty industry, real estate, like the list goes on. And Stern Talks are a really great way for each of you to just have that exposure to what Stern alum have been able to do super easily. And I guess like related to that, I think the community is also really helpful and really encouraging. Just a lot of upperclassmen, from the ones that you meet early on to the peer mentors who you'll learn more about them later on, but they basically are like resources set up by the school who are upperclassmen who have experiences in different fields, who are literally there to make appointments with you and talk to you about your professional interests or whatever it might be. The community is just really there for you, and the people that you can meet give you a huge amount of insight into different professional options. And they were really helpful for me in just like quelling my worries and saying like, don't worry, you have time to figure this out. This is my experience, but like whatever that resonates with you, that's cool. Whatever doesn't, like just keep like searching and exploring. And I think freshman year is a really great time because you don't have that, not that you have pressure at any point, but during freshman year, like the opportunities are really endless and you have so much time to explore. I would really take advantage of it and like really see everything that Stern has to offer, and see what really resonates with you. Fatima, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I think that what you said is totally right. For your first couple of years as an underclassman, I would really recommend just exploring what professional life has to offer in the sense of what kind of career you're passionate about. And I think clubs are a huge part of this. So for me, clubs have really shaped the way I think about professional life. There are a ton of clubs at Stern. Particularly, I was attending events of the undergraduate Stern Women in Business and Marketing Society, and those are good opportunities to get get mentorship from upperclassmen, as well as interact with industry professionals because they have speaker events. So that gave me a better idea of what I wanted to do. And then also there are professional clubs that are application based, and you can get the chance to interact with clients. For example, I'm part of 180 Degrees Consulting, and that's been huge in shaping my own professionalism. And so there are a lot of clubs like that where you can get a lot of real world experience. And so that's kind of also given me a community that I can lean on when I'm trying to search for what I want to see in my career and pursuing the things I aspire to. And yeah, so on that note, I guess we can answer another question from the comments because we have so many great ones coming in now. We have one that really struck me too from Mariam that says, how can we ensure that we've explored every option before choosing a concentration or elective? And this is a good question because it's definitely overwhelming at first because NYU has so many options of what you can concentrate in and what you can have as a minor. But how have you guys kind of gone about this?
I definitely really resonate with this because I also came in having so many different interests and I really wanted to explore. I think definitely something that I did just to like quell my fears in the beginning was to just ensure myself that you have time, you have 4 years, and there's no like timeline. Like people at Stern figure out, and NYU as a whole, figure out what they're interested in at any given point. I know Danielle mentioned earlier that she only recently discovered her interest in data science and was able to add that to her major really easily and really seamlessly, like once she realized she was interested in it. And I think that really is like a great example of like how normal it is for people to discover what they want later on. But in terms of like exploring every option, I would literally just say it's as easy as just taking any class that you are even remotely interested in or attending a club meeting that you're just remotely interested in, and just like say yes to things and take advantage of opportunities and just like put yourself out there and see what's out there. And at some point you will see something that resonates with you and like fits with you really well and that you really want to explore more. So don't put too much pressure on yourself. It'll all work out in time. And you have a lot of opportunities within like the career from the like class selection process. The way that it's structured, it encourages you to take a lot of electives as well as taking a lot of your major requirements. So from a logistical standpoint, like it's built into your schedule that you should have time to explore.
Anagha, I think you explained that really well. It's definitely an overwhelming time, but you have 4 years, so definitely take advantage of those 4 years. And I think we're ready to move on to the next section about New York City and abroad. But right before that, for everyone that's tuning in a little later, I guess we can go around and introduce ourselves. My name is Fatima. I go by she, her pronouns, and my hometown is Dubai. And I'm currently studying marketing and data science with a concentration in web programming and applications.
Yeah, and I'm Danielle. I am a junior. I'm studying accounting and data science, and I am from northern New Jersey, so very close to NYU, and I'm minoring in music as well through the College of Arts and Science, and I am really excited to talk with you guys more about Stern.
And hi to everyone that's just been tuning in. My name is Anagha. I use she, her pronouns. I'm concentrating in finance and data science at NYU Stern and minoring in media, culture, and communications at NYU Steinhardt. I am from central New Jersey, and I am, really excited to be here and to share a bit more about my Stern experience with all of you.
Yeah, and at any point, please feel free to drop in your questions in the comments section and we can answer them as we go along. But for the first question of our New York City / abroad discussion, can you guys talk a little bit about your abroad story?
Yeah, so I can start off with this one. I was fortunate enough to get to study abroad before the pandemic hit, which I'm just super grateful for. I went to NYU Prague, which is one of NYU's, I believe, 14 global sites. And it was just a fantastic experience. I got to travel a bunch, both with NYU Prague as a program, but also just individually with my friends. I really built a really close-knit community and got to explore a part of the world I never thought I'd get to explore. And while I was there, I got to take Stern classes, but also just classes that were really relevant to the site that I was at. So I took a couple of classes that involved advertising and society, which I was able to use for my media, culture, communications minor. But it was so interesting because I got to learn about the history of Czech advertising and like the reasons why they kind of like advertise things the way they do and like the historical context of the country, which was so fascinating. And I also got to take a music class while I was there. And through that class, I got to attend the Czech opera and the Czech orchestra and like go to jazz concerts. And it was just like such an immersive experience that I got to get through like my classes. And also just like outside of that. If you're interested in study abroad, I would highly, highly recommend taking advantage of the NYU study abroad sites. But it was just like a really big part of my Stern experience because I knew I was so interested in studying abroad and getting that global perspective. And it's something that NYU really emphasizes, but I really found it to be true because I think going abroad and living life in a country that I never had exposure to before taught me a lot about the way that people live and operate, and it gave me a much more holistic perspective of business coming back for sure. So it was super instrumental to like my college career and like my understanding of the business world, and it was just a super fun time aside from that. But I know, Fatima, you have had some experiences with other ways of studying abroad, and also you're an international student. So what about your abroad story?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, my hometown is Dubai, UAE. And so I often joke around and say that my 4 years are technically a whole study abroad experience, but it definitely does feel like that, being that far away from home. But I think it's amazing because I feel so grateful to have lived in 2 different countries at this point. And I really do treat it like a study abroad sometimes. I think that for an international student, I would really recommend seeing America. There's so much to offer. in my Y Stern little collage at the beginning, if you were here, you might have seen my trip to the Grand Canyon, and that was such a good time. So I think there are definitely some challenges with being an international student in terms of homesickness, but I'd also say there are so many resources that you can tap into, wellness resources at NYU, that I would recommend checking out. And also you learn to build a community that feels like family. And I think that that's so powerful too, because it has made my experience all the better. And so that's as being an international student. But in terms of other study abroad options that I've experienced or hopefully will experience, there's actually a program called Ibex, which stands for International Business Exchange Program, which is the International Business Exchange Program, where you can study at another business partner school for a semester. And this opportunity is open to juniors and first semester seniors. So I hopefully will be studying at the National University of Singapore next fall, which I'm super excited about. On top of that, there are other experiences that are shorter term travel experiences, such as the social entrepreneurship class in Ghana, and that's something that first years can get involved in during the spring, and that's a class that you can sign up for, and you end up going to visit Ghana during the spring break holidays. And for those that are admitted into the first year program in London, you'll also be in London. So there are study abroad options regardless of what year you are at, from freshman to senior year. And as Anagha said, they're incredibly enriching. So I would definitely check out those. And we have a question here. Oh yeah, okay, so that should hopefully answer Victoria's question about.
Oh, go ahead. The one thing I was just going to say is so there are these shorter term immersions that allow you to study abroad as early as freshman year, but in terms of formal study abroad at the NYU sites, that starts sophomore year, and typically a lot of starting to study abroad sophomore or junior year, just because those are kind of the core years of college. And then, as Fatima said, Ibex is typically during junior or senior year.
Yeah, and one more thing I'm just going to add about New York in specific. Anagha, your comments about the opera and all your music classes while you were in Prague made me think of this. Was that I actually took a music composition class last spring, and it was really nice because it was small. It was just 5 students, and that was the cap. And it was designed so that our instructor could give us one-on-one attention. And it was really a nice, intimate setting, which I really appreciated. And it was really cool because it was based in composing orchestral music or classical music. And we worked up toward composing a quartet. And then at the end of the semester, the goal was to bring in professional musicians from all over New York City to play our pieces, which would not be possible in just any city in the world because not everyone has access to that. And that's something I think New York really can afford, and specifically NYU, because most of the musicians were coming from within NYU as well. And that was a really exciting experience to be able to have.
Yeah, I think on that note, there's experiences in New York, and how did you guys kind of go about transitioning into the city that never sleeps?
I mean, you pretty much said it. New York literally never sleeps. It is. I found very few moments where it is actually just silent here. But I think that's the thing that makes it so unique. It means that at any time of the day, New York is bustling and people are alive and out and doing things. But I will say that a slight downside at times is that can get a little bit overwhelming. At least for me, my first year, I felt like there was so much to do and so much to see and all these opportunities that I felt like I needed to do everything. So that was definitely a big part of my transition, just being okay with, if I needed a moment, just take a moment just to stay in my dorm and to watch some Netflix or something and take time for myself. And NYU has a lot of resources regarding mental health. And I know that there's a center that hosts yoga and meditation and other kind of workout classes, or there's clubs that have de-stressor events. And I think the school really focuses on prioritizing your mental health and prioritizing your well-being. And I really appreciate that because that definitely helped me in my transition and like this feeling of FOMO in terms of like, I only have 4 years here, I have to take advantage of everything. But I think it's kind of about coming to terms with like, you have time, you will do things at your own pace, and like, this is your college experience. You should do what feels comfortable and right for you, and don't like buy too much into kind of pressure to be doing things and being on like autopilot nonstop, because at some point you won't be able to enjoy the things that you are doing. So I think that is something that comes with being in New York, but it's a really amazing experience to have all these opportunities and to be able to do all of these things that we can do.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say for me, it definitely helped that I was spoiled with a room, my dorm facing Green Street, which is a very quiet street. So freshman year, I kind of didn't have to experience the literal city noise and that whole, oh, this city never sleeps, at least at night, which was very nice while adjusting to everything else freshman year. But other than that, I guess on the theme of coffee, for me, it was just finding those little moments, whether it just be, like on my walk to class in the morning, I would always make sure that I was up early enough that I had time to stop off to get my coffee by myself and just kind of be in that for a second. And yes, there were tons of people around me, but it wasn't that I needed to be on because I wasn't interacting with them the same way I would with my classmates and friends per se. But it's definitely possible to take a step back, even with it when there's so many people around. And I think that's a really healthy thing to do. And there are plenty of ways to do that. So coffee was my way, one of my ways, but 13th Street Joe Coffee, I hope it's around because I need to go back once the pandemic has subsided.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I feel like a big part of transitioning into college anywhere really is learning to be okay being alone. And those little moments where you're just going to grab your coffee. That's what I did this morning too. I went to my neighborhood coffee shop, Birch, which that's a shout out. So if you guys are in New York or in the area, definitely check it out. But those moments are so nice to just like have your AirPods in, listen to music, and just like enjoy walking in New York. And it's definitely daunting at the beginning, especially if this is the first place you're kind of moving to right out of high school. But over the 4 years, it gets to be something you get more comfortable with because being alone can be such a cherished time. So that was a big part of me becoming okay with transitioning into New York. And I think also there was another perspective because I had previously been part of a British curriculum, and now I was transitioning into an American one when I had come here. And so it was definitely a different style of learning. And at a certain point during my fall, it was definitely overwhelming. And so I had to really learn to lean on the resources that surrounded me because there were so many resources, including the academic advising office, my professors, the option of office hours. So I really did take advantage of office hours, and I would really recommend that if you find yourself struggling a little bit in the semester, definitely do that because your professors are here to help you. Faculty really, really just wants to see you thrive. And I think that was a really great way to understand what was expected of me in these classes and how I could put my best foot forward too. So just be aware of the resources that surround you to really help you with this transition as well. And with that, if you guys have nothing to add also, go ahead, Anagha. Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to quickly hear a little bit from everyone tuning in. I know we shared a bit about our New York City experiences and some of the things that we've gotten to get up to, but wanted to ask if any of you have been to the city. What was something that was like on your New York City bucket list that you've gotten to take off? If you haven't, what is on your New York City bucket list? We'd love to hear because I know that that's a really exciting part about coming to NYU, just like being part of New York. And yeah, I just wanted to ask a bit about like the fun stuff that both of you have gotten to get up to as well while you've been here.
Pre-pandemic and hopefully post-pandemic, I think some of the best moments in New York have been the concerts and live music. And so I'm really excited for that to be back in full force eventually with festivals and concerts. I've been able to see I don't know if you guys listen to Omar Apollo, but I saw him and that was a wild concert. It was so nice and like the lights and the whole visual was amazing. What about you, Danielle?
Yeah, I'm a big walking person, and I just love being able to walk around different neighborhoods within the city and see how different they are. And we tend to think, at least I feel like we tend to think of New York City as one big homogenous place, but in reality, there's so many different things to see and so many different neighborhoods to experience. And it's almost like it feels like you're walking in different cities, even just like within a few blocks, which I think is so cool. And exploring like new little shops and just seeing how the different like retail and stuff changes within the neighborhoods and the different, I don't know, architecture is not that different in the city, but I love just like, I remember I had to go to the Met one time for a class, and it was just so peaceful just to go and do my thing at the Met for a class. I was like, this is cool. Like, I wish I had more classes like this. It was for a Latin American cultures class. So that was really fun. And Central Park is always really nice, especially now this time of year.
I see in the chat, I just want to shout this out. Someone said Joe's Pizza. That's such a good answer. I love that. I have a Joe's like right down the street, and my roommates got it the other day, and we were like, yeah, we have our Joe's moment. Definitely a fan favorite among NYU students because it's super local. So I love that. Amazing bucket list item. Yeah. Thank you all for sharing your answers. That was so much fun. I will just add my 2 cents. I am a huge Broadway person, and I am so excited once the pandemic is like under control to go back to Broadway. And actually, like through NYU, you can get like free or discounted tickets a lot of the time. And especially like through Stern, there's this program called the CASE program, and that allows like first years to get opportunities to experience culture in the city. So like people have gone to sports games and to like concerts and things, and it's like paid for by Stern. And I went to a Broadway show for my first year CASE event, and hopefully that'll be something all of you will be able to take advantage of too if everything's under control. And I'd highly encourage you to take advantage of it because it's so much fun. I think even based on like Fatima and Danielle's answers, like culture is a huge part of the city. There's a question that we have in the chat that I think would be helpful because a few people are asking it. And that's about like safety concerns, which is super valid because it is a huge city. And so what have your experiences been with safety in the city?
Yeah, I think, as you said, it's a big city, so it's really important to have your wits about you in general whenever you are in a big city, and to kind of be conscious of that. But with that said, I've never felt particularly unsafe in New York, and especially on NYU campus, it's worth mentioning that there are a lot of public safety officers. Each building does have security. So with that in mind, if you're smart about it, you're conscious about, trying not to walk alone late at night, just trying to stay in groups, those kind of general safety precautions, I think that you'll find that you feel pretty secure. And so with that, we can move on to the next section, which is more about community and what it's like to just be a day in the life of a Stern student. For the first question, could you guys just talk a little bit about the clubs that you're involved in, whether it be in or outside of Stern?
Sure. So my primary involvement, which is actually outside of Stern, but ties really nicely into Stern, which is fun, is through Tamid Group, which is a business club, focuses a lot on entrepreneurship. We consult for startups, we code for them, we do some tech stuff for them. And then we have a fun track where we do really exciting stuff with kind of like building up a venture and talking about how you can create, all the financial statements and talk to investors. And I think that that's a really fun thing for NYU students, because I think you'll find when you get here that there's such a large amount of students who love that and are always looking to, we have a lot of ideas and we want to get them off the ground running. And through resources like the Berkeley labs in Stern and the eLab in NYU at large, that's possible. So that's been really fun for me. And I love that there's students from all schools in NYU involved, because as much as it's important to have a business perspective and understand that, it's also really interesting to understand the mindset of a student who's not coming from a business perspective and kind of see the synergies there. And I love just kind of taking a step back and reminding myself that while it's super important and useful to understand the business, it is equally as important to realize that other perspectives are valuable as well. So I love that.
Yeah, I can share a little bit about my experiences with, I guess, like involvements at NYU. So I would say like my involvements are pretty equally dispersed between inside and outside of Stern. Freshman year, I got involved with one of our Bollywood fusion dance teams on campus called NYU Diligi, and that's actually how I met Fatima, because she also joined our freshman year. And that was a really great community for me to explore my passion for dance. I've been dancing like pretty much my whole life, and I just want to continue that at NYU, but also like meet people who were also interested in that, and gave more of like a cultural awareness and like a community within that. And that was so much fun and a great way to meet people outside of Stern. And I'm also part of Empowered Consulting, which again is like outside of Stern, but it ties really well into like my professional interests. It's basically a social impact consulting group focusing on educational equity. And that's something I found throughout my time at Stern that I'm really passionate about. And I like made it a point to become more involved in like education related issues and things like that as a result of my experiences. So it's really cool that I can do that and meet people outside of Stern who are also interested in that. And it's really cool because that consulting group also brings in education majors and people who are more involved in that side of it as well. So not only am I getting the business perspective, but I'm getting like the perspective of like other students at NYU and like kind of combining that. And then like within Stern, I'm a part of like the orientation leader cohort leadership program, which is part of like developing a community for first years and being there for them as well. And that's been a really great way to give back to Stern. And I am obviously part of the street team, like all of us are. And that's super, super fun as well. So I think you can really get involved in anything that you want at NYU, and there's so many opportunities. We have a bunch of clubs within Stern and a bunch of ways to get involved within Stern, but also so many clubs outside. And I think you should really take this time to explore and see what the community has to offer. And I've had a really rewarding experience. What about you, Fatima?
Yeah, I think clubs have been such a big part of my life, my college career, especially with, like Anagha mentioned, the Bollywood fusion dance team. It's so different from the clubs that might be at Stern, and that really gave me an opportunity to interact with people that I might not have otherwise met. And I think that also it just fulfills like a feeling of stress relief. So a lot of clubs you'll find some are more educationally based, some are more like physical. You have a lot of like exploring New York clubs, things that you can visit, restaurants, things like that. There's a huge array of clubs that you can explore. But I found that with NYU Diligi, the Bollywood fusion dance team, it was a great time to just have a day of classes, go to practice, and just like dance it out, you know, like you just forget about all your stresses for a while. And so that was an amazing experience, and also just the opportunity to meet these people from a variety of different schools. So I was involved in NYU Dilgi, and I'm also involved in 180 Degrees Consulting, which is a more professional club. And so I kind of touched on this earlier, but it really gave me an opportunity to get hands-on consulting experience and interact with clients, learn how to present myself in a professional setting, which was incredibly valuable and expanded upon the things I was learning in class. So I found that having those kind of clubs along with the kind of things that you're studying is really work together and complement each other too. So I would say one of NYU's greatest strengths is the diversity of clubs that they offer. And so there's quite literally a club for any interest you may have, professional or otherwise. So definitely look into that. And we have a question actually here about whether there are any houses in Stern. And so while they aren't necessarily actually called houses, we do have cohort programs. And so that's something that you are put into in your freshman year, and it's a big part of your orientation period of time where you join a group of students. You're named after different areas in New York, actually. And you end up doing a lot of activities during orientation week. And that's a time when you get to also compete a little bit between houses, which is like the second part of your question. But you also get to build relationships inside your cohort. So I was in the Murray Hill cohort. You guys can go ahead and shout out yours too.
Chelsea.
I have a bit of a double loyalty because I was in Lower East Side LES my freshman year, but this past year as an orientation leader, my cohort was Tribeca. So shout out to both of them. This is just like a huge part of orientation and like the beginning of your first year, and like is a great way to build community. But just to clarify, like this kind of like friendly rivalry and the cohorts that we call them, aren't like a residential thing. They're just kind of a part of like Stern culture, but it's super fun and a great way to build community.
Yeah, I think another important question pointed out by Amrita is where you can find communities to support you, whether you're having a tough time or something along those lines. And so do you guys have any advice on that matter or any insight?
Sure. This is a really important question because I think it's very important to acknowledge that the 4 years you're in college are a rough 4 years. It's a big transition from, high school to freshman year, but then it's also just a life stage transition. And there are going to be things that come up and that happens for everyone. And that's totally normal and totally okay. And there are definitely so many ways that you'll be supported. If you need academic support, your advisors are happy to help out. You can approach your professors directly. They're always really happy to, hear you out and work with you to figure something out that will make you feel calmer and make you feel that you're still on track. If you don't feel comfortable reaching out to them directly, then your advisors are always happy to do that for you. And just like they have a list of all your classes and they can say, no problem, I'll just send an email to your professors and they'll be aware. Like they don't have to give details. It's just an understanding that they'll have. And then there's also there's the wellness center that you always are able to go to if you want to talk to someone a little bit more formally. And then also just rely on each other, I would say, is a big thing. And realize that if you're having a hard time with something, there's a good chance that somebody else is too. And that even if it's not exactly the same thing, you can just find common ground on the fact that they're like that underlying emotion is that you're struggling with something, you're stressed, you're anxious, you're upset about something. And I think that just being open about that, if you're able to be, really helps you get through that and not feeling that you're isolated in that feeling.
Yeah, I think my answer kind of also, like everything Danielle said is like really important. I just want to echo all of that. There's a lot of resources that the university gives, but just to add on like my 2 cents, this kind of also touched on the question asked most recently about like Stern's kind of atmosphere, but I found that the community that Stern has and that NYU has is really uplifting. There's a huge culture of like mentorship and giving back. And I think people have been, at least in my experience, have been really willing to give back and support each other because we all kind of understand that we're going through a lot of the same things and that stuff gets hard for us at some point, like just naturally. And so I think there's a lot of ways for you to find community at NYU if you just say yes to opportunities. So even just things as simple as like your residential life, you will have an RA and you will have a floor and you'll probably have hall meetings and like events within your dorm. If you go to them, you'll meet some new people. If you go to club events that you're interested in, you'll meet some new people. You'll meet upperclassmen who've been in the same place you've been. Even within your cohort that you're placed in freshman year, if you talk to people in your cohort and talk to the orientation leaders who are part of that, just naturally you get put into a lot of situations where you get to meet a lot of people. And I think that's a really great support system that you don't really even have to try too hard to be a part of. And then beyond that, there's just so many ways for you to meet people just from going to things, experiencing things, and being around other students that I'd say the community is a really big part of being an NYU student. And the people you meet here are like the lasting connections that you're going to be taking throughout the rest of your life. So yeah, I would definitely say that there's a lot of help and support here. And in my experience, I've definitely not found the environment to be cutthroat or toxic at all. I've actually found like very supportive, like helpful friends and people I will keep with me around my life for like the rest of my life.
Yeah, very in line with what Anagha was saying, but we're reaching that hour mark. So I think that one final question to wrap it up would be, how did you guys find community? Which is something you elaborated on in Anagha, but if there's anything you'd like to add, and also what is that community to you?
Oh, I wasn't sure if you were asking me or Danielle. Yeah, I definitely would say that the community is definitely just the people I've met directly through like the involvements I've been a part of, but also just like the understanding that like we're all in this together. And like I think there's some like a general, I don't know if you both have experienced this, but I feel like there's just a general sense of community and like camaraderie in the fact that we're all NYU students and we're all Stern students, just because like we don't have like a closed off campus in the middle of nowhere. We are part of the city, and we are kind of like in and of the city. And so there's like camaraderie within us, just knowing that like we're all like doing this together, we're here together. And I think the community just looks like people supporting each other and their interests. And like I think something else interesting about NYU community is like it really feels like a pretty small world. The same people you'll meet will be like will pop up in different areas of your life. And I think even though it's a really big school, it does feel like a really small world, and like it feels very tight knit, which is really great. What about you two?
Yeah, I'd say that exactly what you said, but it's also just the little things like when we were in person, for me, it was just like walking into the building and almost even just the security guards who were there, making sure that, everything was going well, and just saying hi to them. And like, they felt like they were part of the community for me as well. And all the, the people who work in the cafe and the Sosnoff lounge. I'm excited to go back there. But really everything. And walking in the halls and seeing so many familiar faces. And I know that for some people, the amount of people in your year at Stern and the number of students in Stern in total can seem daunting, but you really feel that at a certain point you recognize so many faces, and that brings such a level of comfort, just smiling at someone and saying hi. And even if it's just not that you know them personally, but it's just this acknowledgement that it's a familiar face, and that feels good. And it's a really nice, warm feeling to walk into the Stern building.
Yeah, in terms of finding community, I think a big part of your college transition is also putting yourself out there, because to receive, you need to give. So it's definitely scary at first. You're entering a new place, you might not know anyone, but people are really receptive. And I found that if you just, go up to someone and say hi, that's how you start building that kind of community. And in terms of what community means to me, I've been so lucky to surround myself with people from really diverse experiences too. And I found that by surrounding myself with people that are different from me, I've been able to really push myself and grow. The amount of personal and professional growth like that I've felt in these almost 3 years has been immense. And I don't think that it would have been this level for me had I not gone to NYU, simply because there's such a great variety of people in terms of where they're from, what interests they have. And so I really value that in my community. And that's also a huge reason for why I'm so grateful to have gone to NYU and NYU Stern in particular. And so with that, I think that's a great way to wrap up our coffee chat. And we'd like to thank you all for joining in, especially if you're joining in from India and like farther than that, because it must be kind of late for you guys. So hopefully you've replaced your coffee with a bit of chamomile, perhaps. But with that, I guess we can move to the last slide, which will just have our contact information for Street Team. And you can definitely reach out to any one of us or the rest of Street Team if you have any questions at all about our experiences. Once again, thank you so much for joining.
Bye, guys.
Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great day.